Imagine, right, you're scrolling through your phone, maybe looking for a dinner date, and you stumble upon a profile, and it just sends chills down your spine. But instead of swiping left, you kind of get sucked in, you dig deeper, and you uncover a real-life nightmare. That's what we're diving into today, the bone-chilling case of the cannibals of Krasnodar.
A case that really gets under your skin, for sure.
We've got excerpts from, like, a video transcript, and it details these gruesome crimes, Dmitry and Natalia Baksheev. A Russian couple, totally normal on the surface, but underneath, whoa.
A real wolf in sheep's clothing situation.
And get this, we're talking potentially 30 victims over 18 years.
18 years. It's almost unbelievable.
It sounds like, I don't know, something out of a horror movie, right? But this, my friend, is chillingly real.
What's really unsettling, is how this case, it kind of exposes that darkness. The darkness that can be hidden even in everyday life.
Just lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. Dmitry and Natalia, they were living these seemingly normal lives. They were even using, like, dating apps, modern technology to carry out these horrific crimes.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, in the digital age, who are you really connecting with?
Right. It's terrifying. It really makes you think. So who are these people? Let's go back, rewind to the beginning. Where did it all start for Dmitry and Natalia?
Their story, it begins with a chilling pact. This shared descent into darkness. And it reportedly happened over a seemingly ordinary dinner. Natalia, in this moment of casual horror, just asked Dmitry, have you ever considered tasting human flesh?
Hold on, she just casually throws that out there. What could lead someone to even ask that question?
It's a question that, to this day, baffles investigators and forensic psychologists. Was it like a morbid curiosity? They both had these pasts filled with trauma, addiction. Maybe it's connected to that. Or was there something deeper, more sinister, a shared desire maybe for power, for control?
Whatever the reason, that one question, it set in motion this horrifying chain of events, a chain that spanned, like we said, almost 2 decades.
It did. To understand how deep these crimes go, we need to go back into their pasts to see how these two people, both marked by hardship, by loss, how they found each other and went down this gruesome path.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. What were their lives like before their paths crossed?
Dmitry's early life, it was marked by instability, hardship, abandoned by his parents, both addicts. He was left to the mercy of the Soviet orphanage system. Imagine, at 8 years old, he's adopted. This couple, they're desperate for a child, right? They mean well, but they're completely unprepared for the challenges of raising a deeply troubled child.
Sounds like it was good intentions. They kind of backfired. What went wrong?
Dmitry, he struggled. Aggression, violence, substance abuse, you name it. Imagine the turmoil in that household. A couple yearning for a family, and they end up living with essentially a ticking time bomb. They eventually have to make this heartbreaking decision. They ask him to leave, hoping, that tough love might set him straight.
A last resort, for sure. But it sounds like Dmitry was already headed down a dark path, even then.
He was. Dmitry turned to loans, even got caught up with the Russian mafia. All to fuel his addictions. Imagine that. Desperate times, desperate measures. It was during this time, this chaotic period, that he crossed paths with Natalia.
And Natalia, what was her story? Was she drawn to this darkness in Dmitry?
Her story is almost like a mirror to Dmitry's, a chilling reflection of a life just overshadowed by loss and instability. Abandoned by her father, then orphaned when her mother died, Natalia was forced to grow up fast, taking care of her ailing grandmother. And despite a promising start, she was bright, even graduated with honors from medical school. She harbored her own demons, you see.
That sounds like she was carrying a lot, even with her successes. What kind of demons are we talking about?
Alcoholism. It cast a long shadow over Natalia's life, influencing her choices, her relationships. It's this tragic irony, right? A woman with so much potential, but battling this incredible inner turmoil. And it was in the middle of this turmoil that she met Dmitry.
So they find each other, two souls grappling with their own darkness. What happens next?
Immediate connection, intense, fueled by this shared understanding of pain, of isolation. Natalia, even though she was married with a child, she left it all behind for Dmitry.
Wow, she left her whole life. That speaks volumes about their connection, or maybe, like you said, their shared darkness.
Exactly. A bond forged in shared experiences and destructive tendencies. By 1999, they were living together. A small apartment tucked away in a military hostel. Natalia worked there as a nurse.
A military hostel? That's like adding fuel to the fire. That setting, so isolated, surrounded by these vulnerable young recruits, it's practically a breeding ground for darkness.
It really is. Living amidst this community, this secret. But behind closed doors, a routine was unfolding, a chilling one.
And modus operandi, right. How'd they choose victims? Was there a type, or was it more about opportunity?
They stuck to the fringes of society,
Yeah.
targeted people who were isolated, transient, less likely to be missed. People who, if they disappeared, wouldn't ring alarm bells right away.
So calculated, taking advantage of those society overlooks.
Exactly. And they were cunning. Oh, absolutely. Luring victims back to their apartment, promises of alcohol, maybe companionship, even just a listening ear. Can you imagine?
Preying on that basic human need, right?
Yeah.
Connection, belonging, makes it all the more horrific.
It does. And once inside that apartment, that's when the real horror of their pact unfolded. I'll spare you the details, but
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's just beyond comprehension, the cruelty, what goes through someone's mind.
the million-dollar question, what drives someone to this? Some experts, they say it's about power, control, the most extreme way to exert dominance over another human being.
A twisted sense of control, right, fueled by their own demons. And sadly, it only got bolder as time went on.
You're talking about the technology, the dating apps.
Exactly. It's scary, Even in our connected world, darkness finds a way in.
It does.
Makes you rethink swiping right, huh? You think you're connecting with someone, but behind that profile could be anything.
And in this case, it was a gateway to something truly awful. Using dating apps, Natalia, she was luring unsuspecting victims into their web. Makes the whole case even more disturbing. It could happen to anyone.
It's terrifying, honestly. A dating app got used for this. But this wasn't just about satisfying a craving, was it? The transcript, it hints at something even more disturbing. Distributing the meat.
You're right. Their crimes, they went beyond even the most horrific act of consumption. It was, for lack of a better term, a gruesome side hustle.
A side hustle. I can't even imagine.
Get ready, because this is where it gets even darker. Natalia was making, get this, meat pastries.
Meat pastries.
And she was offering them to her neighbors. She even tried to supply some local restaurants.
Hold on. She was just, casually sharing this with people? How could this go unnoticed for so long? Did they not know? Were they choosing not to? It's almost like a collective denial, right?
It really is. Shows you how easily we can be fooled, or even how we fool ourselves. We want to think these things, these horrors, they can't happen close to home, so we ignore the signs, we accept any explanation that fits.
Disturbing, for sure. But the truth usually comes out, doesn't it? Even with all the smoke and mirrors. And this time, it came out in the most, mundane way possible.
You're talking about that lost phone incident, right? Back in 2017. The irony. Dmitry, after all this time, covering his tracks, nearly 20 years, and one careless mistake brings the whole thing crashing down.
Talk about a slip-up. What exactly happened?
So picture this. Dmitry loses his mobile phone. But this wasn't just any lost phone. This was like a Pandora's box of evidence. Photos, videos, even tutorials on how to, prepare human flesh.
Tutorials. It's like they were, proud of it. Who were they sharing this with?
That's one of the biggest mysteries in this whole case. But back to the phone. It was found by construction workers. And thankfully, they actually looked at what was on it.
Lucky break. Could easily ended up in someone's pocket, or worse, in the trash. What did they find that finally took Dmitry and Natalia down?
The pictures on that phone? They were horrific. Dismembered bodies, posed, like some kind of gruesome artwork. The evidence was just unmistakable.
I bet that's an image that stays with you. A stark reminder of just how dark things can get. But here's where it gets even stranger. You'd think, with evidence like that, it'd be an open and shut case, life sentences, right? But it wasn't.
You're right. The sentences were lenient, to say the least.
Dmitry got 12 years for murder. Natalia. 11 for incitement.
11 years. For her part in all of this, doesn't feel like nearly enough.
It's definitely controversial. Some people think it was intentional. Minimizing the story, protecting the reputation of the Russian military. Don't forget, all of this happened within a military hostel. Can you imagine the scandal a public trial would have caused? All those gruesome details.
A cover-up to save face. That's a scary thought. Justice swept under the rug like that. It's a possibility, isn't it? Shows you how power works, even with something this horrific. Or maybe the authorities were just overwhelmed. The sheer depravity of it all. They focused on what they could prove instead of facing the full reality of what they were dealing with.
It leaves you with this uneasy feeling. More questions than answers, What actually happened in Krasnodar? Were there more victims? And what about Dmitry and Natalia? What became of them?
Dmitry, he died in prison in 2020. Complications from diabetes. Natalia, though, that's a bit of a mystery. Some say she served her time and got out. Others say she's still locked up. The details, like a lot of this case, they're still murky.
It's almost as if the story itself got lost, in this fog of unanswered questions and speculation.
Which, maybe, that's its own kind of horror story, right? We're left to grapple with the fact that we may never know the full truth. That some things are just too monstrous to understand, too disturbing to really face head-on.
The cannibals of Krasnodar, it's a chilling reminder. Darkness, it's everywhere, even in the places you least expect it. And the most carefully built facade can crumble, revealing the horrors hiding underneath.